what a week that's been absolutely dire for the BBC, with the absolute onslaught, the debacle of their impartiality, and the fact that they openly lied about a speech given by the President of the United States. As I pointed out the other day regarding Catherine, the Princess of Wales, you would have thought that they may have learned their lesson. But this gets even worse, if that were possible. Oh yes, as ever, chums, let me explain. Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today, one and all. Lovely to have your company. You know, one thing I do like to share with you is little stories on here, because obviously it makes you think, doesn't it? And I don't know how this came to me the other day, but I wanted to ask you this. I was in a supermarket, right? And you know when you're just going in to buy some salad bits and stuff like that? And when I was a kid, tell me if I'm right about this, when your mum sent you to the shop, say, to buy things from the greengrocer or the fishmonger and stuff, well, ours was fishmonger and greengrocer. You went in, right, and if you asked for a lettuce, you got a lettuce. There was no style, design, shredded, this, that, the other, kale. A lettuce was a lettuce. Tomatoes were tomatoes, right? I think there were two options of apples, green and red. Potatoes still had all their dirt around them, and you know what I'm going to say. And the thing is, I went to the supermarket the other day and I could not believe the variety. And you know what it's like, chums, when you're literally looking, thinking, where's the normal lettuce? You know, the shredded lettuce with carrots, red lettuce, red cabbage. And you know, and then it's the same with sandwiches, isn't it? You just want a cheese sandwich, right? Maybe just cheese, butter or whatever. No, it has to have this in and chopped chives. Nice to have variety. But is there too much variety? And were we a less wasteful society because we only had those options? Let me know exactly what you think, as ever. Let's get back, of course, to your royal story of the day. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, I think she's done some sterling work over the last couple of days. Very moved to see her talking to the veterans. She's a lovely lady and she's really good at that element, you know. I mean, you could see the older veteran was slightly blushing, you know, because she's very beautiful when you look straight up close. And I like the way that she grabbed his hand and made him feel at ease. She is just so good in this particular role. As I told you, the BBC have a lot to learn about respect, because as we now know, the presenter kept referring to Catherine as Kate Middleton during that particular broadcast at the Armistice Day meeting, etc. And what was interesting about this, and I pointed this out before, the problem that you've got when you think about it is, and there's two elements here, the BBC are so scared of their own staff, there lies your problem. I've got a colleague who works there who was forced to take somebody back, who then promptly went sick for another 6 months, but not to make a fuss of it with human resources, because could be tricky. So you're paying for somebody who's blatantly lying to be sick because they don't want to make a fuss. My colleague did, but then her job's in jeopardy. You see how this works. So what's happened now with Catherine, the Princess of Wales? Well, because of the backlash, and that's all thanks to the many chums that tuned into that particular video, the BBC are now going to write a formal apology to Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Is that enough? Well, here's the deal. I put a call into the BBC and obviously got sources, etc. And the person in question who carried on saying Kate Middleton rather than the correct title of, I mean, she could have just said Catherine, the Princess of Wales, if she wanted to be a little bit more informal. Remember, this woman, a so-called journalist with the BBC, that the British taxpayer is paying for because they keep telling you it's the best news service in the world. Well, here's where it's interesting. Has she been reprimanded? No. Has she been spoken to by bosses? Well, not to my knowledge. And here's where it gets even more twisted. You see, the bottom line is the BBC basically have a bunch of what they call presenters, journalists. They're not really journalists because they read the story that's put together by an editorial team. If they're lucky, in fairness, they may get a run through of the auto cue before they go to air. But of course, you know, it's a circular news channel. So if that story comes round again, you could easily say, can we just change that? Any journalist worth their salt would have said, that's not correct, we need to change it. She carried on and continued to do this. As of this point, this particular journalist, who is to believe to be on over £150,000 a year, gets away with it scot-free. Now, I want to ask you, do you think it's enough that the BBC are now simply going to write a letter of an apology to Catherine, the Princess of Wales? Wouldn't it be far more, well, prevalent, really, given the circumstances they're in with the President of the United States, to step forward and say, you know what, we would like to make an apology, we'll put it on the website and we'll make sure it doesn't happen again. That just tells you how just contrite they are and how truly they don't care about apologising. We've seen this numerous times with presenters being caught out doing the V sign on air and, dancing around mocking. Yes, they're allowed fun, I get it, but this is supposed to be a professional organisation. And I, for one, think that this will do more damage to people buying their BBC TV licence fee than even the battle with the President of the United States. But either way, it's a lacklustre attempt at saying sorry. Anybody else agree? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.